Welcome back to the FixedOps Roundtable. And we are discussing a topic now that has not in the past gotten a whole lot of love and has been underappreciated. It's the parts department. And with us today is our resident expert, Kaylee Felio, the sales and marketing manager for PartsEdge. Kaylee, welcome back to the FixedOps Roundtable.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and just talk about parts because it's so important. And it's actually, funny that we're focusing on fixed ops. Like that's a main focus right now. It's a hot topic, but I'm still seeing a lot of service and not a lot of parts. So it's great that we're talking about this today.
And parts makes up such a valuable part of the dealership's overall revenue and profitability, and having the right people in place and the right processes makes a huge difference. So let's get right into it. You and I have been discussing that right now parts operations are quite short-handed, and we've got the employees there wearing a lot of hats. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, even before the pandemic, parts managers wore a lot of fire hats, but I'm noticing with talking with parts managers more and more is that they're spread even thinner and they're wearing even more fire hats, and they're working the counter. They're just they're working so many hours, and it's a person can only work so many hours for so long until they get burned out. And so it's so important that we give our operations these tools to help to do their job better and save them time, really, is kind of the focus.
And, not just parts, but all departments, are shorthanded nowadays. They have a lack of employees and, training new members. Let's talk to that a little bit specific to the parts department. What are some of the things that you're seeing and some of the things that dealers can do right now?
Yeah, so I'm seeing, again, the parts managers working the counter, they're shorthanded, they don't have a lot of people. And then I'm also seeing they're training new people too. So what they can do is really just outline the process and give them the systems and support they need to really train their employees, spend the time to focus on their customers and grow the business and keep up with that busyness that everyone's experiencing. So really just, again, giving them the tools and the support they need to really do better is what dealers should be focusing on. Specifically for parts, it's very important that the parts can support your service and again, don't burn out your parts managers and your parts people.
And you know what? I think a part of it, Kaylee, is that parts doesn't get a lot of visibility. Whereas new car sales and used car sales and F&I and service does. Parts is that thing in the back, or in the separate building in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And right now with, all that's happening in our industry with the chip shortage and also, there's also parts shortages and back orders and managing and tracking that as well as claims. What advice do you have for our audience today on some of those things?
Yeah, so I'm finding that parts managers they're getting their deliveries, or they're not even getting their deliveries. But when they do, there's shortages and they're having to submit claims, and there's tracking of all the individual parts that they're missing. And that in itself is another job, and it's just adding to the plate of a parts manager. And you can just, going back to, you can only expect someone to do so much, and you have to give them the tools to really. You can't put the inventory management on the back burner is the important thing here. We have to continue to focus and give the consistency to that DMS to really produce the inventory that you need for your market. So that's my advice for everyone.
And, the OEMs have guidelines, and, this word compliance is a big thing. It's been a hot, a dominant motivator, especially in the last 5 or so years in our industry, and it continues to grow. And, if they're not optimizing their inventory, they can overstock, they can have too much of an item. And dealers are, it goes right to the bottom line because they're paying those costs. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the compliance and just giving the parts managers about going back to the tools and managing those guidelines and really making sure that they're not overstocking. But also one thing that we when we speak with our parts managers, it's so important to identify your inventory as two separate inventories: your guaranteed inventory, or in other words, protected inventory. So what the manufacturer is guaranteeing, and what's not guaranteed, because you still have not guaranteed inventory that you have to manage. And that's where we need to focus on. And of course, you don't want to be overstocked, and you got to maintain compliance with the manufacturer programs. But again, you still have those that inventory that is not guaranteed.
So let's talk a little bit about PartsEdge, because you've got your retail consumer, and then you've got a lot of dealers that historically did not want to get into the wholesale game because the margin is a lot smaller there, and they might have to stock more parts, bigger parts, inconvenient parts, things of that sort. I don't want to be too salesy here, but how does PartsEdge, how can you help a dealership with some of these things that we're discussing?
Really, we empower parts managers to focus on the aspects of their parts department.
Okay.
So we're not a replacement. We're not we're a tool and a resource for the parts managers to really just save them time and get their job done better and more efficiently. And really, it impacts the bottom line when we can get into a dealership and help a parts manager and saving them time and giving them the tools they need to really see their data and see what their true market demand is, and really just saving them time and making them more profitable.
And a lot of these electronic tools have been available now for a number of years, for example, in the used car department in terms of aging inventory, and on the new car side as well. We use some of these tools in the F&I department now in starting the process earlier. In fact, the F&I process in sales now is starting to move off the dealership showroom and into this online lane right now, where people can come in and do a lot of the transaction online. And we're starting to see that now in parts with e-commerce and stores and selling parts online. What kind of opportunities would a dealership miss if they're not, starting to get involved in that already?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to start selling parts online. It's just another way to sell more parts, really. But with that adds another thing to your parts manager's plate. So we want to make sure that, again, we're giving them the tools and the resources to manage the inventory effectively and stock what they really need to stock, and really price everything efficiently, and so that you're getting the most gross profit. It's so important that we're selling parts online, because that's really where consumers look. If they're trying to fix it themselves, they look online to find parts. And
Lizette Gold from Google did a segment a few FixedOps roundtables ago, and she told us what a big segment of the market that is, customers who want to do it yourself. So we got to look at that as well. And how can you help a dealer on the there's a lot of stuff we're discussing now, but again, on parts, in terms of e-commerce and getting set up online, are those things that you would cover as well?
No, so we don't actually allow the ability to sell online, but we give the parts managers the more time to focus on those things. Okay. So all of these things that we're talking about is not leaving enough time for parts managers to be proactive. And that's what PartsEdge brings, is the ability for parts managers to be proactive and less reactive, because that tends to be what happens when you have a lot on your plate and you're just kind of running all over the place. So yeah, that's what we bring.
So let's talk about that. DMS, inventory management. What are you seeing right now in the marketplace that some of the more progressive dealers are doing that others are not?
What I can say is what parts managers love about what we do, and the core of what we offer, is we have the ability to set up 50 to 100 sources. And with that, you can become more granular with the way you stock parts, the way you phase them out, the way you control your manufacturer program, your pricing. And the beauty of it is we have the automation to help maintain that for the parts managers. So it sounds like a lot and it's not simple, but it is when you have the automation. And without PartsEdge, parts managers can typically have about 30 sources or so. And with that, you still can produce a very efficient inventory, but we kind of take it to that next level and really just kind of maximize the DMS and get it to do what it needs to do.
And you've got access to a lot of dealers and a lot of information that a dealership typically wouldn't. Let's talk about that. and how you can make the parts manager's job easier and less stressful.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is we focus on parts every single day. That's our only focus. And we're talking to parts managers all over the country, small dealerships to the largest dealerships in the country. And the goal is always the same, really, just to grow the business, to give them the right tools, to really see what's going on in the inventory. So that, I mean, we're seeing a lot when it comes to parts managers and just really giving them the information they need to maximize everything.
That parts manager, you're right, is pulled in a lot of different directions. And the whole department, as we've been talking about, has been underappreciated. Why do you suppose that we don't give the parts managers the tools they need? Is it just a lack of awareness? Is it just something that we assume is being handled properly and can't be any better? What do you think it is?
I think it's a mix. So I really think, so we're experiencing kind of a transition. A lot of people are retiring. And I think that over the years, we've kind of just, trusted and let them do their things because the lack of knowledge and the kind of it's running, it's producing, let's just let the parts manager, do what they want to do. And really just, so it goes back to the knowledge and learning more about that department and giving them the tools they need. And then we have the new to the position parts managers. I think there's more awareness of we can't just let them learn from the person that was kind of on their way out, or maybe they didn't get any training at all. We can't just let them run the most important, valuable investment. You have to give them the tools to learn and expand and understand inventory management.
Kaylee, this morning in his keynote, Dave Anderson, who speaks a lot about leadership in general, talked about I'll call it the grace period that a lot of leaders have in just, saying things are pretty good right now. I don't have to change a lot of things, but slowly but surely things are happening in different departments. And I'll call out the parts department as one of them, as an area of opportunity. And it's not going to happen today, maybe not going to happen on Monday, but over a period of time, if that parts department is not looked at carefully in terms of things that we could be doing, that grace period is going to expire at some time. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. The grace period there is no grace period anymore. It's time to really invest in your guys' parts operations and your people, and giving them the tools that they need to keep up with your busyness of your operations, and really just looking at what's going on in your market and your operations. And really, that's the grace period's over. We need to start focusing and leveling up the operations.
Your company has a lot of experience in this arena. Tell us, if I'm a parts manager, a fixed ops director, general manager, how do I learn more about PartsEdge and what you can do for our dealership?
Yeah, so you can go to the website, you can talk to me, we can schedule a meeting. We have so much information on our website, ebooks, if you're just trying to get yourself educated. So definitely go to partsedge.com. That's the best way to learn more.
Kaylee, we see you everywhere now. So you're doing a great service for fixed operations, especially parts. And again, service can't succeed without parts. So they go hand in hand, and it's a big part of what the dealerships do. So thank you so much, for all you do for the fixed ops community.
Thank you. I'm very happy to spread the word about PartsEdge and just add more value and really just help people. That's really what I want to do. So.
All right, everybody. Kaylee Felio here today from PartsEdge at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kaylee. It's always good to hear from you. And our next guest has led transformation in automotive for quite a while, Ted. And he promises to bring key insights into our business both now and for the future. Mike Maroney is next. Stay with us.